I'm Rebecca Bailey. I'm the Head of Education Outreach at the Royal Commission on the Ancient and Historical Monuments of Scotland. This project is looking at the relationship between a national collection, which is what the Royal Commission is, and the public who use social media, and how the two come together and how they influence each other. We hold the national collection on the built environment of Scotland, so we have millions of photographs, drawings, manuscripts, all kinds of material that tell the story of the built environment of Scotland and more internationally as well. The material's always been available to access. The Commission's always been at the forefront of online access. What this project has been tracking is the public able to contribute into that information. So we've always shared it out, but we haven't always received it in this way, and that's what Michela Clari is tracking.
I would say that my research looks at new patterns of participation and learning around digital cultural artifacts as becoming available now by museums opening up to the web, making their material available online. Because of what people can now do online, the museum website was very much tended to be over the years, in the last 2 or 3 decades, a way for museums to re-represent themselves online. So it is very much a version of the museum online, not a million miles from having a brochure of the museum. What can happen now because of the so-called web technologies? People can, in some ways, engage with the material, around the material, and change it if they want, steal it if they want, in a way, or reappropriate it, or reinterpret it. CAHMS is a digital archive for every site that the Royal Commission has got information about. There is a record which contains data plus images if they existed and they are available or have been made available in a digital format. So let's say if you want to know about Patterson Land, this building we are in here now, you can look it up, which is part of the university. You can look it up in CAHMS, and there will be information about when it was built, you know, the architectural features and maybe some images. Now, while you look at that, you can also say, hey, I've got a photograph of this building from the last time we were there for a big event, and this may be of interest because since then they've changed one particular, structure and so on. So, or just because it was a good day and you would like to make your personal contribution to the archive. And this, of course, brings to the stage a different type of public, a global public, as opposed to the individual visitor or family of visitors. It goes without saying that all this has huge implications on the role and the responsibilities of curators, of museum professionals, and the responsibility of the institutions in general, and what it means today to be a museum.
Most interesting to us is how authoritative the contributions have been, because social media can encourage casualness, the sort of Twitter world, and that's not what's happened with us. What's happened with us is that people with huge in-depth knowledge about particular subjects or particular local areas have been very, very keen to share their research with us, and this has given them the vehicle to do it.
So typically, can you explain what sort of things you've been receiving?
We have on our database some pictures of a factory somewhere in the West, and what someone has posted up, sent in for us, is their family history connected to that factory. So how their grandfather run it and how they recognise that from the lorry that was parked outside, and giving us more dates, more names, more facts that flesh out the story of the building. So we're telling the story of the building and they're helping flesh out the human story.
How did you feel as Head of Education when these stories started to come in?
Well, delighted, absolutely delighted, because we'd sort of dreamt up this idea as part of a way of celebrating our centenary in 2008, and we thought we need to give the public more of a voice, because the people have always written to us, they've always spoken to us. Whenever we're out working across the country, people always come and tell us their stories, but social media gives us a way of capturing those stories and sharing them.
So do you get this sense of not quite ownership between the Royal Commission and the public, but a sense of working together?
Yes, but it is a shifting ownership, because it's not about a kind of dusty, distant, centralised body telling people stuff. It's about a national collection being owned by the people of Scotland for the people of Scotland, so their contribution to it is equally valid.
What is striking, rather than surprising, is the different tone, different mode of interaction on Flickr and Canmore. They're very different types of environment, and it is useful, I think, to try and pinpoint why the interaction and the type of engagements are so different, and what people are trying to do in each case.
We've been very lucky recently that we've been awarded follow-on funding from within the Beyond Text programme by AHRC that will allow us to take forward new technical developments inspired by this research and inspired by what we've done so far. So it's a fantastic opportunity to actually have greater impact and move things forward from the research. Well, the first beneficiaries are clearly the people of Scotland, who are benefiting from being able to engage with us more creatively. But this project's also had international impact. Michela and I drew up a paper that I then presented in Paris to the International Confederation of Architectural Museums, which I have to say caused a little bit of a stir and got everyone talking about this issue of engagement with the public and the use of social media. And that paper is going to be published.
When you say caused a bit of a stir, was it because it was just changing what the role of museums has been for I don't know how many centuries?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I gave the paper at the Musée d'Orsay. I was on a platform with some very serious museum directors who were talking all about the power of the curator and the voice of the curator and how important that was. And I came and stood up and said, wait a minute, what about the voice of the public? And how do we embrace the voice of the public? So the audience, who were all museum professionals, but half of them education, half of them curatorial, essentially formed two different factions, and there was quite a lot of constructive debate came out of it as to the role of the curator and the role of the public and how those voices should both be heard.